Welcome back to Real House DIY. Today we have a pretty shallow electrical box under here. And we're replacing it with a nice deep electrical box. The reason this heat fan and the switch was added at a later date and added a couple more wires to this box, and they took the two light switches that were separate and moved them over into one, and now there's way too much in this box. It no longer meets code. They didn't replace the box when they should have, so we're going to do that now. Power is turned off. Now we can take off this cover plate. Now if you need to, you can take these switches out. You can count the number of wires in there, do the box fill calculation, and determine if you actually need a deeper box. Those box fill calculators are online. Very easy to do. Does the work for you. Just enter the information it asks for. What I'm going to measure to make sure that the deeper box I have will fit. This, depending on the type of wall, you might not be able to easily measure how deep the wall is if you don't have a door frame. And this house, I know this is a 2x4 wall, but I do have a couple 2x3 framed walls in my house. So it's good just to confirm that. So we can check to see. I'm just using a wood stick. It's a skewer. And you can measure the depth of this box, which is pretty shallow. It's 2¼ maybe 2½ inches. And then hopefully you have enough space to get this to the back wall, which I do. And we can see we have 4 inches. And that's 4 inches from this face of the drywall. So the framing is going to be your 2x4, which is 3.5 inches. And then we have 1/2 inch drywall, which adds up to the 4 inches. So I can see on my new box from this, which would be the outside face of the drywall it sits against, we have like 3 5/8 inches, and that'll fit with about 1/4 inch to spare. So I know we're good to go ahead and move forward with replacing this electrical box. Next, I'll remove these switches. Now something else you might want to have checked for. I know I have a stud right here, which is what this electrical box is mounted to. Use your stud finder, or you can actually see through this gap right here. And then on this side, I have a vent pipe. This is in a bathroom. So I'm really limited to this 3-gang size box. I wanted to expand and go to the 4-gang and divide this up into 2 separate light switches. Unfortunately, I can't do that here. So I'm just going to be replacing the box and keeping the remaining switches I have here. Next, I'm going to start taking the wires off the switches, labeling all the wires, and I know that I have 1 wire coming in supplying power to the 2 light switches and the bath fan, and I have another power wire coming in supplying power to the heat fan. And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4 wires going up to those fixtures. This one is pretty easy. Have the yellow wire for the heat fan, power coming up from below, and then power going up to the heat fan here. I might not even bother to label those ones. I can see the yellow sheathing. So when I pull the wire back through on the new box, I'll know what to attach that to. Where I can, I'm not going to cut any wires. I want to make sure I have as much length as I need. and not cut anything too short. So there we have that first yellow sheathed wire for the heat fan at the bottom disconnected, and the one at the top. And here we have black wire power coming in, and that's going to the 2 light switches and the fan switch. That's coming from the wire from below from the basement. So this wire here is the bath fan, and they've used the red wire going to this light switch. So we actually have power coming up from the basement here. So it looks like they also have power going up to the attic for whatever other reason. So I'm going to want to make sure I label that well and make sure I reconnect it exactly the same way. So mostly some notes for myself. Have power coming in tied on the left side of the switches here. And the wire with the red, that's at the top switch, and the bath fan. All the neutrals tied together. This power up to that light fixture here. I think the only wire I really need to label so I don't mix them up is this one, which is going to be tied to the power coming up from the basement. So that one I'm just going to wrap with a piece of tape. These switches I'm not a fan of at all. I've had multiples of these break within just a few years in my house. Basically, there's how these are held in. You can see that it's actually starting to break already. These plastic tabs that just hold the switch in, and when those break, the contact inside is going to be like right on the edge of arcing, and then you're going to be left with, when this fully breaks, you're going to be left with a light that's on all the time until you replace the switch or turn off the breaker. Unfortunately, there's not too many options for these types of switches. They have the left and right toggle switches. I also don't like those, but I think they work a little better. But I would prefer just to go with the separate toggle switches, which I unfortunately can't for this situation. Okay, so we've got all our wires separated. Got this one important different one labeled. I need to straighten these out as much as possible so that, not so much for to get them out of this box, but for getting them into the new box. This specific box, which is from the 70s, is connected on the back with a metal bracket to the back of the stud. So what I usually do for these, I use a hole saw attached to the drill to cut around the plastic where the metal is mounted. It's in 2 spots, right here, another one up here. So I'll drill those out, and this will be disconnected from the back bracket. The hole saw I'll use the with the pilot bit removed, so I don't want to drill through metal. And then for the front of the box, there's a metal wire wrapped around this whole thing, and that's attached to the front of the stud here. For that, you just need to cut it off. So this is actually a pretty easy box to remove. If it were this type of box, so a few different options here. One, you can use a multi-oscillating tool to cut. You can try to cut these tabs here where the nail's attached, or from the bottom you can actually see the indents where that plastic is right there. You can cut with the multi-oscillating tool. Or worst case, what I've done in the past, you take some needle nose pliers, just keep breaking up the box into pieces and taking the pieces out. Or you can use some metal snips to keep cutting through there. Either way, getting the box out is the easy part. Getting the new box in will be a bit more difficult. So I've got the 3/4 inch hole saw, which is the right size to go around that point where the back of the box is mounted. Use the Allen wrench to loosen, take out the pilot bit for the hole saw, tighten that back up so you don't lose it. I'll put this on the drill and drill those out. See, that's cutting around the plastic. And you can see that's all the way through, and you can see that metal bracket behind it. That's loose. Now I'll get that last one at the top. There we go, so now the box is loose at the back. I'll need to snip this wire, goes around the box. You can see it there again at the bottom. Now I'll just work the wires out so I can get the box out. It's nice that these wires from the heat fan were fished through the wall at some later point after the house was built, so those are nice and loose for maneuvering. Okay, there's the old box. I'll finish cutting this wire out. This wire that wrapped around the front of the box. Now you can see this metal bracket in the back that we need to get out. It's connected at the bottom and top with a nail. We use a cat's paw to get that out. So that first nail. Here you can see there's that vent pipe on that side. Got the stud on this side. There's yellow wires, which are for the heat fan. Those are nice and loose, will be easy to move around, get through the box. These other ones, you can see that one. Got it connected with the wire staple there. And also for the ones on the top, which we can do. So these new boxes here, well, these old work boxes anyway, they have these tabs which are used to secure the wire, and that covers the case where you're in a old work situation running wires to the walls and you cannot use the wire staples So for this case, if you want to or need to, for help maneuvering these wires through the new box, you can remove those wire staples. And a really nice thing about these old work boxes, these where the wires come in, they're indented. So that actually gives you some space to work with, where you have that indent coming in. You can get the wire in while the box is starting to go into the wall. So that gives you a little bit of space to work with. So I think I'm going to try to leave all the wire staples in place. And if that doesn't work, then I can take a wire staple out. And my backup option, if you cannot get the wires through from the outside and then get the box into the wall, what you can do, you can tape up these wires and use something like this here. It's just a stranded ground wire. Tie this to the wire bundle, and then you can use that to fish through the box. And then after this is a little bit into the wall, you can pull that wire into the box. So first I'll just try, see if I can get these into the box as is. It will be helpful if these as straight as possible. I have 4 wires for the top and 2 from the bottom. I'm separating them as much as possible. It'll be easier just to get a single bundle of wires through each of these spots. So I'm starting with this one where I have to send 2 in first. Got those in. I'll continue with the rest. I'll also add, if you can keep the wire staples in place, then you don't actually need these tabs here securing them into the box, since you have the wire staples in the wall. However, for these new wires that are fished through, I will definitely keep the wire securing tabs in place. Okay, I got those first set of wires through at the top. Work on the bottom ones next. All right, we're just about there. So now I get the box halfway in the wall. We can finish getting the wires. You want to be able to see the sheathing come through the openings. So I got that one right there. There's the yellow one on the top. These other ones are connected with the wire staples, so again, if you need to break off those tabs or just bend them really far, that's just fine. This one on the bottom I think is going to give me some trouble, so just going to bend that over. go. The box is in on the left side. On the right side, which I forgot to check, this box might be slightly bigger than the old box. So I'm gonna get some box cutters, cut that little bit out of the wall to get this to fit. All right, that does it. Got just a little bit of concern about this spot on the wall here. I'm gonna take my cover plate, see if that will cover up. Let's see, right about there. I think we're gonna be good. If not, after the fact, I can fill that in, even right at the very end before putting the cover plate back on. So last on these old work boxes, on this 3-gang box, I have 4 screws to tighten, and those little wings will come up and tighten behind the drywall to secure this to the wall. So I'm going to tighten those up next. That's nice and secure. I try not to tighten them too much, because you can just start to pull those right through the drywall depending on condition of drywall, especially mine where, you know, they really broke it to begin with to get the box around. I broke it a tiny bit more there. Next we'll get the switches reconnected. Going to start with this black wire which I taped right here. So this will get connected to the wire coming up. And it was connected here, the wire nut. Depending on the condition of these wires, you know, you might want the pigtails, you might want to use brand new. You might need to cut a little bit off of these. These are still in good shape. Okay, so there's everything connected to power. So the first one is on the switch. The light switches on the left side. This you want to wrap in the direction that the screw tightens. And we have the red wire to the top light switch. Remaining black line power, that one goes to a line on the bath fan. I'll leave that over there for now. And then I'm looking for the last black wire on the left, which is this one. It goes to the other light switch. So all this one needs now is the ground. Move these heat fan wires out of the way. That's all a separate circuit. Before I do too much here, I'm going to go ahead and connect all my grounds together and these neutrals. And then we had a pigtail for the grounds. These 2 ground wires will connect to the light switches and the bath fan switch. Got some that are a bit long here, just cut those off so they're all even. And I'll get this ground connected to the light switches. And next I'm going to tie together all the neutrals, at least for the light switch and bath fan part of the circuit. And we also have the neutral to connect for the bath fan switch. Some of these were a little bit long. Make those all nice and even. Get the wire nut on. Connect the ground. And connect the line. And the load. Alright, so that circuit is all wired up. Next we have the heat fan. So now everything's connected. I'm going to start putting the wires back into the box. And now we have plenty of room to work with in this nice deep box for the wires to fit. I'll check to see if our cover plate will fit. Make a couple adjustments. Yeah, that'll be good. Go turn power back on. Okay, power's back on. Everything's working, so we can get that cover plate back on. That's it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please remember to like and subscribe.